Hello everyone and welcome to today's SUMP Learning Programme introductory webinar. My name is Anna Maria Baston. I work for Ruprecht Consult in Cologne, Germany, and I'll be moderating today's session. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so that you know how to participate in today's event. You can dial in using your computer or by phone. If you would prefer to join over the phone, then just select a phone call in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. Then you only need to enter the PIN code. The default setting is that all listeners are muted in order to avoid any background noise, and you can only be unmuted by us. By raising your hand, you let us know that you have either a question or a comment, and we will respond either by unmuting you or through a written comment to you. We'll just do a check now. So please raise your hand if you can hear me. We'll just wait a couple of more seconds. Apparently there's around 65% of people who can hear me, so I suppose that there are a few background, a few technical issues with some of our participants, but that will be solved bilaterally. Moreover, we'll be asking throughout the webinar a few questions through polls to gather your input and help you learn something from one another. And for your information, this webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be stored on Mobility Academy. And now I would like to briefly introduce you the team. We have Lasse Brandt for questions and polls manager. We have Daniel Franco as technology manager and myself as moderator. All three work for Ruprecht Consult and are involved in the SUMPs-Up project. How about you? Going through the attendance, it looks like there are about 26 people from different cities of Europe, all classmates in SLP1 or part of the leadership group. And most of you are representatives of a public administration. So let's have the first poll question so that we can find out something about you and you about one another. The first polling question is, what department of the local administration do you represent? Please select the appropriate response and then click Submit.
Good morning, everyone. This is Lasse Brandt speaking, also from Ruprecht Consult. I have received over 70% of your answers yet. I will wait a few more seconds to give everyone the chance to vote. Now we are over 80%. So I think we can have a look at the results. And here they are. So we have a quite diverse set of participants, I would say. We have 38% of you coming from transport or traffic planning in the administration. We have 19% coming from urban planning. No one from energy or infrastructure. So most of the people from the administration are from the planning, and more specifically from the transport and urban planning setting that we are also mainly focusing on in our course. And then we also have 24% of you coming from European projects or communications, so the more international dimension. And then finally 19% from other. So I think this gives us a good overview of where you are coming from And I think we have a very interesting mix of people that can also inspire each other.
Thank you, Lasse. This was a very useful exercise. And now it's about to see what to expect today. This is the agenda. We already covered the first point. And the webinar today will contain a series of 3 presentations. The first one is about the project's ambition to inspire you as being part of the entire European SUMP movement. Afterwards, we will have a presentation of 2 of our most important project outputs that are about to be launched. That's the Civitas Urban Mobility Tool Inventory and the SUMP Registry. And then you will receive some insights into the first e-course lesson that is about to be launched next week. And the topic covered by this lesson is the local mobility situation and planning practices. And finally, we will have a short wrap-up session and some latest announcements. I would like now to introduce to you the presenters today. We have Ana Drăguțescu and Richard Adams, both from ICLE European Secretariat, ICLE being the SUMPs-Up project coordinator and involved in most of the work packages and activities, and myself, Ana Maria Baston from Ruprecht Consult, that will present to you the last presentation. So now let's start with Ana Drăguțescu from ICLE. Anna, can you hear me?
Yes, can you see and hear me?
We can hear you and see you, yes.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. My name is Ana Drăguțescu. Thank you, Ana Maria, for this introduction. I work for the ICLE European Secretariat. We are the coordinators of SUMPs-Up. And today it will be my mission to guide you through the wonders that this project will develop and will implement within its 3.5 years of lifetime. So its main task, so one of the most important tasks of SUMPs-Up is to answer to this question of how to best support cities to maximize their the number of high-quality SUMPs. Through its communication and capacity building and support efforts, SUMPs-Up will reach out to more than 600 cities across Europe and will train more than 200 mobility experts, while it will also support the development of 100 new quality-assured SUMPs, out of which 30 will be ready for adoption by the end of the project. Why SUMPs-Up? Because SUMPs-Up will enhance the understanding of where SUMP take-up is low. So we are working in a very ambitious project that will try to inspire and help cities as much as possible to prepare and implement their mobility plans through our capacity building program and exchange opportunities. We will provide technical support for planning authorities, for local and regional stakeholders or mobility practitioners, in order for us to help you engage in the SUMP preparation process, which we are very aware that it's not a very easy process. So we will also try to support you in selecting appropriate measures to deliver high-quality SUMPs built on a solid methodology. How we are communicated to the world? Well, we already have a fully interactive and responsive website launched in June 2017 under the URL sumpsup.eu. Because we are a Civitas project, we work very we are very linked to the Civitas initiative and to the Civitas website, which you can find it under the URL civitas.eu. Our project website hosts all project-related content designed for public consumption. So you can see a few of the print screens from our website. But I invite you all to visit our website and to take a look at all the activities that we will implement, and that they are very well developed and presented within the website. We also have a Twitter and LinkedIn account, so if you are a Twitter user, we invite you to take a look at, to visit our page at twitter.com/SUMPs-Up and to retweet our activities that we are always introducing and presenting. We also have a LinkedIn account. They are used to communicate, of course, project news and SUMPs-Up related information to the project's target audience. So our ambition is to inspire cities to become part of the SUMP, the European SUMP movement. And by that, we are thinking and we are aiming to develop new guiding structures to enable the cities to develop quality SUMP. So it's not only about the capacity building, but it's also about the tools and the guiding structure that we will develop throughout the project. So one of the tools is the SUMP Urban Mobility Tool Inventory that you will hear about more in the next presentation from my colleague Richard. And it's a tool developed together with the project Civitas Satellite. We will also develop an SUMP registry, which is already online, and of course, my colleague Richard will also introduce it to you, so I will not give you more details. We will develop SUMP measure selection and action planning guidance. We will have 3 manuals for this kind of guiding that will be available most probably starting October. We will improve the SUMP self-assessment scheme that is already available within LTIS, within the platform, LTIS platform, and that was previously developed in the Challenge project. The SUMP, we will develop the SUMP innovation fact sheets because we have 8 city partners that are already developing and implementing innovative SUMP measures, and we want to tell the other cities about this. And we will develop and implement a monitoring and evaluation scheme for SUMP. So as you can see, we are fairly ambitious. And to tell you more about the SUMP Learning Programme that you are part of already, and first of all, let me congratulate you for being part of this very interesting program. So you will be receiving knowledge, so we will transfer a lot of knowledge, and for testing and assessment, user feedback, tools, methodologies I've told you about before. You are part of the SLP1, the SUMP Learning Programme 1, that has started now with the first webinar in September 2017 and will continue all the way to March 2018. With its main topic of tools and services for initiating an SUMP. We have 5 SUMP learning programs, as you can see in this figure. Some of them, most of them will start, so all of them will start later than this one, who are the first SULP that has started. So we will discuss about tools and services for initiating an SUMP tailor-made for small and medium-sized cities, tools and services for elaborating the SUMP, and also for the implementation of the SUMP. Just a quick overview of the SLP1, which you are part of. There are 3 learning blocks, as you can see in this figure. The first webinar that we are part of right now is on the 20th of September. The first e-course will start on Monday, 25th of September, and you will hear more about this, and you will receive instructions on how to be part of the e-course. The e-course will run for 3 weeks, so we will have just a week before we meet in Thessaloniki. We will have some time to understand and evaluate the tasks that you've developed, and yeah, so we will meet for the first time in the first workshop in Thessaloniki. Then we will have the learning block 2 and learning block 3 with a webinar beginning of November 2017, with an e-course for lesson 2 running from November to December. Maybe the dates could change. They are still under, the learning block 2 is still under construction. The second workshop will take place in Brussels on the 4th and 5th of December before the Polis conference. And the third learning block will start in December, continue in January, and will finalize itself with the third workshop held in Tampere, mid-March in Finland, mid-March 2018. Also, to have an overview of what we will study together and what we will go through together. So the learning block 1 will take care of the diagnosis of how to develop an analysis in the SUMP process. So most of the steps we will go through together belong to the first circle of first quarter of the SUMP circle, which I am very sure that you are familiar with, and you will see it during the e-course and understand it better. So we will guide your steps through diagnosis, developing a vision, and adapting the SUMP process to your city. So just to summarize, there are several reasons to be consistent with the SLP, with the learning program, to continue to attend all the webinars and as much as possible, and to benefit from our very well-developed e-courses. Because we are Europe's SUMP avant-garde and represents to over 600 European cities, we are aware of where the SUMP take-up is low and why, due to our surveys developed at the beginning of the project. We provide support to cities to initiate a large-scale European SUMP take-up, and we cooperate with EU member states to build supportive national SUMP frameworks. So, in a word, we are SUMPs-Up. The key outcomes of our project would be to enable cities to develop quality SUMPs, as I've started with this as one of our main objectives. So we will allow decision makers and planners to understand this concept, the long-term opportunities that it provides for the cities, to enable them and to adapt the overall approach to the local contexts, because we are aware that local contexts may vary very much, so it's not one project fits all. And what I want to mention, and I've mentioned before, but I want to highlight that the project will not guide you through the entire planning circle. So at the end of the project, you will not have the final developed document of the SUMP document, but it will help you to understand very well the process. I thank you for your attention, and I think I have to pass it on to Ana Maria, as this was my last slide.
Thank you, Anna. This will take a couple of seconds. Thank you for this very inspirational presentation that you delivered to our cities, which is very useful for them to understand where the SUMP Learning Programme fits in the entire SUMPs-Up storyline. And I would like to ask Lasse if there has been any questions in the meantime.
Thank you, Anna Maria. Yes, there have been a few questions, but most of them were on organizational issues. So just to clarify, the date of the meeting in Brussels is final. So please go ahead and start planning your travels. It is only the dates of the webinars and the e-course that are not final. So the date in Brussels is final. And yeah, I think the other questions were clarified bilaterally. Thank you.
Thank you, Lasse. Now it is time for another poll question. So we can find out in what SUMP stage you find yourself in. And the polling question is, how would you assess your city's SUMP planning status? And there is a series of 5 answers, starting with no activities, no actions in this direction, just starting or having the SUMP in preparation, even in implementation phase, or even preparing subsequent SUMP. So let's see what what's your planning status in the SUMP context.
So the answers are coming in. Roughly half of you have chosen already. Now we're up to 70%, so I'll give you a few more seconds. All right, I think I'll close now. And these are the results with a quite clear picture. The majority of you are in the phase of just starting. 62% of you are just starting your SUMP activities. And this very well fits the focus of the course, of course, which is about the first steps of SUMP planning. But we also have 10% of you who have no activities yet. We have 14% of you who are currently preparing the SUMP, and 10% implementing the first SUMP, and even I think one of you is preparing second or third SUMP. So in addition to the majority of you who is just starting, we also have a few more experienced ones who maybe can then inspire the others. Thank you.
Thank you, Lasse. This is a very useful question for us to be able to tailor the SUMP Learning Programme activities as such to address your greatest needs. And now let's continue with Richard Adams, who will talk about 2 of the most strategically important project outputs. And I will hand over to Richard. Richard, hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
I can. Perfect.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be presenting, and also very happy to be part of the SUMPs-Up project. Just to echo what Anna said, congratulations on getting through the IPP call. Hopefully we can help you all to develop your SUMPs, and we can form the community of avant-garde SUMP cities that Anna has already mentioned. So I will now proceed to introduce to you the Civitas Urban Mobility Tool Inventory and the Civitas SUMPs-Up SUMP Registry. So here we go. So the first thing that we have to look at is, where do these 2 products fit into SUMPs-Up? So products or outputs, depending on what you call them. They're both key supporting mechanisms for enhancing and increasing the take-up of SUMPs across Europe, which is obviously the key objective behind the Civitas SUMPs-Up project. They are both also complementary to the e-courses, which is the Mobility Academy that Anna Maria will describe to you after my presentation, and also to the SLP programme, which Anna has just introduced to you. The two entities should not be considered as being separate, but instead as being two things that complement and link up with each other. So I personally view it as being, in a way, a two-stage process. The registry in itself allows cities to draw on the experiences of others and be guided by them and also inspired by them when developing their own SUMPs. And then once cities have gained this knowledge by looking at the previous examples of other cities, then they can apply that knowledge using tools from the Civitas Urban Mobility Tool Inventory in developing their own SUMPs. Obviously, both products can be used by cities at every stage of the SUMP process, but it was a conscious effort on our part to make sure that both of them interlink. So now to come firstly to the Civitas Urban Mobility Tool Inventory. So it was developed jointly by Civitas Satellite, which is the overarching umbrella project of which SUMPs-Up is a part. It's one of the Horizon 2020 projects. So it's an online database that will gather over 100 tools that are relevant to sustainable urban mobility planning. The thing is, previously the tools could only be found at their varying sources. So whilst it wasn't an issue of demand or supply, it was a question of where could they be found in a single place. And that is the idea behind the tool inventory, in that it's a one-stop shop for all sustainable urban mobility practitioners or cities or anyone involved in sustainable urban mobility planning who would like to find such tools. The tools include guidelines, pieces of software, manuals, so similar to the ones that SUMPs-Up will be releasing for the end of the year, different mobile applications, games, and also types of planning approaches. The tools are drawn from a variety of sources. It's not exclusively just from other European Commission projects or Horizon 2020 projects. There are NGOs included, independent and commercial software developers, and other types of organisation as well, which shows the breadth of the research that has gone into developing the tool inventory. It's not just a series of tools developed by the urban mobility community linked to the European Commission. The net has been cast far and wide to make sure that the offer to cities within the tool inventory is as comprehensive as it can be. So, when will the tool inventory be online? It's not very close, but it's not quite online yet. So this time next week, it will be launched during the opening plenary session of the Civitas Forum. And it will be hosted there will be a link to it from the main page of the Civitas website, which can be found at the URL there, www.civitas.eu. The products are interlinked, however, there will be a slight differentiation in the form that it takes on the SUMPs-Up website. So the SUMPs-Up version will act as a teaser and a portal to, and a link to the main portal found on the Civitas website. However, it won't have the full functionality of the one on the main Civitas website. This is currently in the final stages of development, the SUMPs-Up website version, and this will appear online later in the autumn. But keep your eyes peeled for the main tool inventory being launched next Wednesday, and then you'll all be able to go online and access it from the afternoon. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough with a few slides of the static view of the tool inventory, just to give you a quick introduction, and then I'll go online to show you how it actually navigates in the web browser. So this is the initial page that you're confronted with when you open up the Civitas tool inventory. As you can see here, there are no filters applied, and our claim of 100 plus tools is just correct, because as you can see, we currently have 100 tools online. So there are 5 main filters that you would normally see down the right-hand side, but at the moment in the screenshot, you can only see 3 of them. So there are a number of ways that you can filter the content. So as I've mentioned, 5 main categories. They come under thematic category, application area, tool type, target audience, and language. And under each thematic category, there are also further subtopics. So if you select main options from a main category, so data gathering and evaluation monitoring, so I'll just go back briefly. So if you were to select here, data gathering and evaluation and monitoring, then all of the tools that meet either of those filters will be displayed in the search option in the results that appear, as it states here. However, if you select multiple filters from across different categories, so German from language and software from tool type, then only tools that match both of those filters will be shown. So using an example here, if I was to select tools from data gathering and from demand management strategies, then only tools that are matched to both of those filters will be displayed. There's also a general search bar that you can use to search for tools by name, and they can also be sorted according to their release date and their popularity or their rating. Their rating is something that I'll come to later. That can be seen just up here. Okay. So now you've selected the filters that you would like. So this is the sort of view that you will receive once you have filtered your results. As you can see, so this was an arbitrary search that I did yesterday, and here I selected walking and finance, procurement, legal aspects, and measure implementation. As you can see, they're from two different search categories, so thematic category and application area, which means obviously that only the tools that meet both of those filter criteria have been shown. So essentially here, I'm just to give you a run through of what each box does. So if you click on this icon here, that takes you immediately to the tool's website or PDF, or the place where this tool is hosted in whatever form that may be. Here, that then takes you to an individual tool page, which is hosted within the Civitas website, which gives you a more in-depth summary and exploration of the tool itself. And if you click one of these arrows here, then that gives you that shows you selected information, which can then help you decide whether you would like to navigate to the more in-depth tool page. So here you can see at the bottom, this is the sort of information that is shown when you click on such an arrow. So now to move to the individual tool page. So sticky world. So this is an example of a sort of tool page that you would see. So as you can see, the information is already more detailed than in comparison to the drop-down arrow in the last menu. So here we have the various filters outlined. So we have the application area, the tool type, the target audience, and also here down the right-hand side, there are 5 different categories of information as well. So the first one displays the language, then there's the release date of the tool, then there's whether there's any monetary price attached to using the tool. Then it's the estimated time to apply the tool. So is there a process behind its implementation, its development, or can it immediately be utilized? And here we see whether external assistance is applied for the use of the tool. So whether you yourself as a user can go ahead and use it immediately, or do you perhaps require external support for doing so? And here, self-explanatory, there are clear contact details. And also on each page, there's a tool rating system as well, which allows users to give feedback on and rate how good they find each tool. So adding a tool, so to quickly go through this, at the top of the filter, this sits above the filter page here, there's an option to add a tool. However, to use it, you need to be logged in, a registered Civitas user, and then logged in. And when you click on there, that then brings you to this page here, the inputting page. I'll come to this in a minute when I log onto the browser, but there's a few fields here that you need to fill in order for your tool to be added. That just gives you a quick impression. So if I just quickly go to the browser, here we go. So this is what the tool inventory page will look like. As you can see here, all the filter results are displayed, and here are the 5 different main categories: thematic category, application area, tool type, target audience, and language. So if we now choose to filter, we go for walking. That applies a filter there, and then this is the search that we had earlier on the slide. And there we go, that displays the results that we saw on the slide. And as ever, only results from both filters are displayed. So this is the arrow I described. So this opens the tool and allows you to start to use it. And this then takes you to the individual tool page. There we go. And just to show you quickly, so to remove filters, obviously click the X. And just to show you as well that within the single box, if you select 2 filters from a single category, then all the results are displayed. So appraisal, assessment, and financing, procurement, legal aspects, and measure implementation from the application area, then the combined results from both of those are displayed. Up here, we can search by release and by the rating, that's popularity, and those are the main navigation aspects from the main page. And here, there's still an option to clear all filters. Here, if we look for our old friend Sticky World from earlier, then there Sticky World is. So here's the option to add a tool. Just to note again that I'm logged in. Click to add a tool, and then that then takes us to the inputting page. There are a few criteria to fill in on this page. However, the SUMPs-Up team and the Civitas Satellite team are here to assist you at any point should you have any information regarding the information that you need to input on this page. So, to my last part of my presentation on the tool inventory, how does it apply to cities in the SLP? So, it's designed to assist cities in both the expert and leadership groups to find, select, and apply and utilize the SUMP tools and methods that are most appropriate and relevant to the local context. As we all know, a one-size-fits-all approach is no longer fit for purpose. So by providing a wide selection, cities can then find tools that are most useful to their own personal circumstances and can actually use ones that they find useful. So it's not a product that sits on its own. It's also embedded into the online courses of each of the SLP, each of this SUMP Learning Programme, sorry. And it comes in the form of tasks. So these are small homework exercises for each SLP city. So there are 2 types of tasks. One of them, the SLP facilitators select a tool. Cities would then test it and report back on their testing of the tool. And the second one is a bit more in-depth. SLP cities would look in the inventory and try and find the tool most suitable to a SUMP situation that has been outlined in the task itself. They will either test and give feedback on the tool or give an assessment as to whether the tool itself could be of use in their own city. 2 tasks will be part of the upcoming SLP course, and Anne-Marie will obviously give you a bit more of an introduction to those in a few minutes. And obviously the massive benefit of having to use the tool inventory as part of the e-course is that it allows each of you as expert or leadership cities to already begin to filter out the tools that may be of or may not be of use to you as a city. So that is now the section on the tool inventory done. And now to come to the SUMPs registry, or as I like to call it, my pride and joy. So this was released last week. So it's a very, very, very new as well. So it's been on the SUMPs website only since last Thursday, or the 14th of September. It's essentially an online database for SUMPs from around Europe and beyond. It's a repository that collects various SUMP documents within a single place, in much the same way that the tool inventory brings together what were previously fragmented examples of tools. The SUMP registry is a way of bringing together SUMPs from around Europe. So currently there are 22 of them uploaded. So since the launch last week, and this covers cities of all sizes and also encompasses documents from many different languages. The registry is I would say particularly useful for cities at the development stage of the SUMP cycle, or just starting, which, considering that 62% of you listening in today are at that stage, hopefully it will prove to be an invaluable resource for you in developing your own SUMPs. However, it is of course also useful at other stages, so at the measure selection stage or the implementation stage as well, there are still lessons to be learned from the cities within the SUMP registry. So it can act as guidance or inspiration, and it's intended to form a knowledge base that will then assist users in filling gaps in their SUMP-related knowledge and helping them to build capacity through learning from others. So it's essentially a series of best practice examples that cities can learn from. And it can be seen at the URL down there, sumps-up.eu/sump-registry. So to quickly go through, similar to the tool inventory section, this is the initial view that you get when you open the SUMP registry. So it can be filtered according to 3 main filters. So country, population of the city, and language of the document. You can see that here. And a series of key categories of information is displayed. So the city, country, the lovely flag, the population of the city, the year when the SUMP was produced, whether the SUMP self-assessment has been completed, I'll come back to that, when the SUMP was uploaded, so this helps keep the registry refreshed and relevant, and also a direct link to the PDF of the SUMP document itself, so it can be directly downloaded from the site. So once you've chosen your results, chosen your filters, this is the sort of view that you'll get. Similar to the tool inventory, multiple filters can be applied at once, and also in a way similar to their results that meet both criteria are displayed. So here I've gone for population of 100 to 250,000 in German, and that returned Kassel in Germany and Basel in Switzerland. So another feature that we've included, so there is a previous database of SUMPs developed as part of the ELTIS project, and should users not find a SUMP within the SUMP registry that helps them address their needs, then they are also provided with a link here at the bottom of the search results to the ELTIS city database. So uploading SUMPs is an incredibly easy process, and I would hope that once every one of you is finished developing your SUMPs, that it will take its proud place here on the registry. So firstly, this is the top of the page above the filters that you come to when you open the SUMP registry page. So, and step number 1, incredibly complex, click the button, please upload your SUMP here. That then brings you to this page here, which requires you to fill in various categories of information. So it's country, population of the city, year of release, city, email address, SUMP self-assessment, and file upload. I'll go through this process online in a minute or two, but as you can see, there is very little information to actually input. Most of it is from drop-down menus. So if you have the file at hand, then the process can take 3 to 4 minutes maximum. And this has its own separate URL as well, which you can access, which you can see below. So once you've submitted your SUMP and once you've filled in all the mandatory information and provided the file, then the SUMP is submitted, and you will then receive this message in your browser, which you can read here. So that then sends the SUMP for approval, and that is checked by my good colleague Lasse Poulbrecht, who spoke to you briefly earlier. And then once he has checked the content of the SUMP, he will approve it, and it then is published on the registry page. So that's the approval process. It's very quick. Oh, sorry. So now just to quickly show you online what the SUMP registry looks like. So this is the main page that you have when you open up. As we can see here, we have the various filters, and there we go. So the countries, all EU member states are included, as well as the vast majority of Horizon 2020 associated member countries. So altogether there are around 40 countries, 40 country options to select from. Populations, sorry, I'll zoom in a bit. So there's some of the countries there. Population, there are 7 different options that cities can select from. And the languages, again, cover all of the official EU languages, as well as the official languages of the Horizon 2020 associated countries. So this is the main filter view. So now, to give you, and as you can see here, If I select Kassel, open the link in the new tab, then that immediately gives me the option to download the file. So quickly, it's as quick as that. So as you can see, I now already have Kassel's SUMP ready to view on my computer. So to quickly talk you through the upload process and show you how simple it is, I will now enter into the upload area of the SUMP registry. So here's one I prepared earlier. So I'm going to use one of our partner cities, Malmö, as an example. So Malmö is, of course, in Sweden, and the population of the city is 250,000 to 500,000. It was released in 2015, and these are the only two boxes where you need to enter any text. So Malmö, and for the sake of this test, I will use my own email address. So this is another question. So the SUMP self-assessment is a tool that was put together by Volkrecht that allows cities to analyse at what stage of the SUMP process they are themselves and to see what knowledge they still require. If you click on No here, then it gives you the option, and it gives you the option to go to the SUMP self-assessment and take the assessment. So for the uploading of files, there is a maximum of 40 megabytes for an individual file and 60 megabytes for the files together. It's possible to add up to 4 languages, files in 4 different languages. So to quickly add Malmö's files, so there we go. So Malmö, that's in English. And then to add additional languages here, Swedish, there we go, confirm and submit. Wait for the files to be uploaded. This wait is normally the longest part. There we go. And there's a lovely message confirming that our SUMP has been added. There's one that I showed you earlier. So, just to give you a bit of insight, once the SUMP has been uploaded, you will then receive an email confirming that it has been uploaded. It should come through it. There we go. So we can see here, thank you for submitting your SUMP. And that is every user who submits a SUMP will then receive this email. And that is as simple as the upload process is. So to come to the final slide, obviously you're here to learn, but you can also, a key part of the SUMPs-Up program is that the SLP cities yourselves become champions of SUMPs and assist others in their own attempts to develop and then implement SUMPs. So when your own SUMP is ready, if you could please upload it to the registry or draw our attention to or upload any tools that you have worked with previously that you think could be of use, then you can also then help build that knowledge base that SUMPs-Up is trying to create so that we can accelerate the take-up of SUMPs across Europe. And that is my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for your very comprehensive and clear presentation of 2 products that the SUMPs-Up team is very proud of, and that our learning cities will really make use of, both the tool inventory and the SUMP registry. Before we go further, I would like to ask my colleague Lasse if there have been any questions in the meantime from participants.
Thank you, Anna Maria. Yes, there have been some questions, but they were for the end of the presentation. So I think there were a few questions on the content, and we will take them in the end. And then there was also one asking if it is obligatory for participating cities to upload their SUMP in the SUMP registry. And just to clarify, yes, it is obligatory if you finish your SUMP during the course to upload it, but as Richard showed, that's really simple and is maximum 5 minutes process. If you finish your SUMP only after the course, let's say in 2 years, for example, of course you will get your funding before, and we encouraged you to upload it, your plan, once it is done later then. So just to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you, Lasse. And now we have another question for you that actually relates to one of our tasks in the upcoming e-course. So now we would be interested in finding out if you have ever assessed your SUMP status using either a self-assessment questionnaire or an ex-ante assessment tool.
All right, so this is a simple yes/no answer, and we already have 2/3 of you voting, over 70% now. I'll give a few more seconds for the last ones. And I'll close it now. So we have a very clear picture. Almost none of you who participates in the learning program has ever assessed the SUMP status until now. So having this task in the course will be a good opportunity to also analyze your own status, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Lasse. Indeed, this will be one of your first tasks in the first e-course lesson, which I would like to speak about in the next 5 or 6 minutes. Why did we include e-learning in our SUMP learning program? And I think the main advantages of the e-learning is that there's a lot of flexibility, mobility, and tailoring. But the thing is that when we developed the SUMP learning program, we took into account the concept of blended learning, which includes also online learning activities like the webinar we have today, or online courses, which you can take at your own time, at your own pace, and from home. But also we find important that face-to-face interaction, contact, and discussions are very important. And that's why we thought that the success factor for our SUMP learning program would be a mixture of online learning and workshops. Related to the concept of our e-course, we focus on the application of tools, and I think Richard offered you a very clear overview on the tool inventory and what type of tools are in there. It is a unique product, a one-of-a-kind one, and it will be strongly related to the SUMP learning program. So basically, most of the tasks that you will have to take in the e-course and that will help you to develop and to advance in the SUMP process will relate to the application or analysis of one or another tool from the tool inventory. Also, the online courses will allow interaction between the SUMPs-Up experts, so the facilitators and the thematic experts, which are our partner cities, and also you as participating cities. And we mentioned tasks, which are basically kind of homeworks for you, but don't be scared, there won't be that many, and we would like to design them as such that they are of practical interest for you. So task will relate to tools, and you will report back on upon completion through the discussion forum. And then the participants can ask questions and discuss online with the other classmates and with, of course, the group of leadership cities who are in a more advanced stage of SUMP and are more into working in the SUMP development. And before I go further, I would like to ask another set of questions to you to find out a bit more about you before we launch the online course first lesson. And the first poll question is if you have already participated in other training activities related to SUMP. It's a simple yes and no question.
All right, the answers are coming in. We have around 70% of you voting now. Once more, I'll give you a few more seconds. And I will close it now. So also here we have a rather clear picture. Most of you, 70%, haven't participated in any other training activities related to sustainable urban mobility planning. Yeah, 30%, so a considerable amount, have also already participated in other activities, and I think we're going to ask another question only for those 30% of you now to get a bit more clear picture what other training activities there have been.
Right, thanks Lasse. So the next question is for the ones who chose yes, if you have ever participated, in which context was the training organized, if you have ever participated in a SUMP related training? Was it in the framework of a European project or more of a national kind of training or support program through subcontracted consultants or even self-learning?
All right, so this is for the 30% of you who said that you have participated in SUMP training before. 25% have voted now, so I'll just give you a few more seconds, the last 5%. And I will close it now. And as we can see, there is a broad picture of different trainings. Most of you, 43% of the ones that have also already participated in a training, did it in a national context. 29%, so almost a third of you, did it in a European project, and some of you also did it through subcontracted consultants or other means, each of them 14%. Thank you.
Thank you, Lasse. That's a very useful overview for us. And now I would like to go back to the presentation. And to continue with presenting the first lesson in the e-course in a nutshell, I will try not to be very long because these are elements that you have been repeated during our support calls. The main topic of SLP1 is the tools and services for initiating SUMP, and it's structured into so-called learning blocks, so like 3 sections. And the first one, covering the diagnosis step, will be open on Monday, 25th of September, and will stay online for you until the 13th of October. Right on time for us, the facilitators, and for our thematic expert, the city of Thessaloniki, to wrap up the discussions, the responses to tasks, and to prepare some overview material in Thessaloniki in the workshop. The first lesson, as I said, is divided into 5 units. But only 3 of them are content-oriented. We have units 2, 3, and 4 that cover the analysis of the local governance system, which is kind of a mapping of local, regional, political actors, stakeholders. Then we have the 3rd unit, which is how to develop a collaborative diagnosis of the current mobility situation, what are the problems, what trends exist, what are the tools for data collection and data analysis, and how to actually undertake the diagnosis exercise. And Unit 4 would be the actual analysis of mobility planning practices that relates to what are the capacities available, what is the regional and interdepartmental cooperation, evaluation practices, and even strategic long-term planning. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to understand and to also explain to colleagues and to stakeholders what is your potential of realizing an SUMP in the actual regional and national context. What are the governmental institutions responsible? What is the legislation and regulation in place? Upcoming opportunities favorable for carrying integrated planning processes. You will also be able to reflect on the potential of the current local institutional organization to start an SUMP process and to identify potential changes, if any. And moreover, you will be in the position to realize a clear project management structure comprising all positions and skills needed to start and to develop the SUMP at the local level or at the metropolitan level. And also, one of the core parts would be to carry out a realistic SWOT analysis of the current mobility situation and to map available data that is needed. And now I would like to quickly show you how the Mobility Academy looks like. I will go to the browser. This is a hyperlink, so it's mobility-academy.eu, which looks like this. You will all receive a username and a password, and you will be able to then log in. And that would be the landing page of the platform that contains a series of course categories, or you can view courses by topics if you click in this section. For example, we have courses that cover new pricing measures or the topic of active transport, traffic management, e-mobility, public transport organization, or most important, sustainable urban mobility planning. In the course categories, you see here that courses are structured per umbrella project that under which they were developed. And we have our SUMP Learning Programme as one of them, which contains a welcome page and a section for each of the 5 SLPs. So SLP 1 would be section 1, tools and services for initiating a SUMP, which contains a brief course overview and an introduction to the course moderators and to our thematic expert. And then you will be able to see each of the lessons parts structured per module. So we will have the first unit, which is under the diagnosis learning block, an introductory, and then the second, the third, and the fourth unit, which are content related, and the fifth one, which is a wrap-up of the whole lesson by offering a reviewing of the exercises, a lot of references, and a short evaluation, so a feedback questionnaire for you. One very important feature of the online course would be the discussion forum that will always appear on the right top corner, and where you would report on your upon task completion, and you will also get in touch with the participants outside of the workshops framework. I will now go back to the presentation. And a few insights into the content of the first e-course lesson. Who to work together with. And I would say that one of the primary steps in this procedure is to establish who should be involved in developing the vision. And this involves identifying relevant stakeholders who will need to be consulted regarding the development of it. Then you would need, in order to know where you want to go and how you're going to get there, where you currently are standing. So data, an analysis of the mobility status. And that comes from multiple sources, most of which is often very fragmented and needs to be put together. And there are also a lot of tested techniques for vision development, ranging from public consultation events, stakeholder workshops, to the use of social media, for example, or the approach of co-creation. And our online lesson will show you what you need to do to conduct a consistent status analysis together with the right people, with the right stakeholders, and also methodologies of engaging together in creating an SUMP vision of your city, a mobility vision of your city. And with that, I would like to hand over to Lasse and ask again if there have been any questions in the meantime.
Yes, there have been a few questions. I think they are good to clarify. For example, there was the question if several users from your organization can be registered on the Academy. And yes, you can, all your colleagues that are interested can take the e-course, so you can register several users. There's also been another question if it's mandatory to finish a SUMP during the course and show it or upload it to the registry. And just to clarify, of course, it's not mandatory to finish an SUMP, which is a long-term process that cannot be finished in half a year, but the course supports you and encourages you to start the SUMP process or to push it forward if you have already started. And then there were 3 questions by Maria Poulou from Piraeus Municipality, which were more on the content. As we are already 11:10, I will try to keep it short. Also because I think most of them will be answered in much more detail during the course, because it's all aspects that we will learn something about in the e-course. The first one was on the political engagement, how much the mayor or the municipal board should be engaged. And there I can maybe quickly say that the SUMP should aim to get adopted by the municipal board in the end. So the political side, of course, has to be involved closely enough so that also the final report and will be pushed forward and will also have a chance to be implemented afterwards. But you will learn more techniques and ways to do this during the course. And the second question was more on the goals, what types of goals you should or could set. And I think in the course we will also have certain examples and certain sets of possible goals, which you can then, of course, choose amongst or add depending on your local context. As all cities are different, cities tend to set very different types of goals appropriate to them. And then the last question was what characteristics are important to choose the goals. And yeah, also this cannot be really answered in a few sentences. Of course, something like the city size, the geographical location, or the current modal split are all important. But as Anna Maria just presented, you will learn more about the different techniques of doing status analysis and setting goals during the e-course. So yeah, I think this is very interesting questions that we also encourage you to put into the discussion forum on the Academy, and so that we can start discussing different approaches. Thank you.
Thank you, Lasse. That's very useful, and I'm very glad to see that you are eager to discuss together with classmates and with us, the facilitators, related to the topic of the first part of the e-course. And now, as we are close to the end of our webinar today, I would like to highlight again the main contacts in the context of SLP 1. The help desk will remain your main contact point, and you have our email addresses of Ana Drăguțescu, the SUMPs-Up coordinator, and of myself as the SLP manager. And you will receive all presentations and also the recording of this webinar as part of the Mobility Academy of the e-course lesson. And now to quickly remind you of our next activities in this very first part of the SLP1, which is the upcoming e-course, and also the first workshop on the 19th of October. It's a full-day workshop taking place in Thessaloniki in Greece. And now I would like to ask you 2 questions related to that, just to see how many of you have already registered online to participate in the workshop. I think the registration link was already sent to you by the help desk in the last days. So please raise your hand how many of you have registered. Then another question would be, how many of you have already booked your travel to Thessaloniki? So please raise your hand if you have already booked your travel to Thessaloniki. All right, there are some responses coming in. But as very few of you have already done that, we strongly encourage you to register, preferably until the 6th of October. So please book your travel, but also don't forget to register online so that we get a good overview of who of you will participate in the workshop. And remember that the evening before, on the 18th of October, there's also an informal get-together with the ones that are already in Thessaloniki the day before. And now I would like to thank you, everyone, to thank to our presenters and our support team for attending and supporting the SLP1 introductory webinar. And if you have any questions, please contact the help desk or ourselves in the next days. You will also receive a follow-up email with a link to view the recording of today's webinar. So on behalf of our SUMPs-Up team, thank you for joining us today and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.